Google and Facebook politicians. So
this is why Paul doesn't show his face.
no, did you see it?
First party data is really what rules, and you need to do everything you can to build your list.
Nobody wants to sign up for another newsletter. I got enough newsletters. Why do I need another newsletter? What's the key to getting people to give you their first party information? Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast, the show that breaks down marketing strategy, tools, and trends into practical steps for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm Jeff Steck from Tylerica Marketing Systems in Austin, Texas, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Ken Tucker and Paul Barthel from Changescape Web in St. Charles, Missouri. Wave, Paul. And Ian Cantle from Outsource Marketing in Toronto, Canada. Today's episode is a timely one, although the deadline keeps getting kicked down the road. But we're going to talk about navigating a cookieless future, first-party data strategies. So regardless of when cookies go away, we're going to talk about that. I think first-party data is a good thing no matter what to be focusing on. So if you've been relying on digital ads to target customers or retarget website visitors, things will change when the cookie strategies, third parties go away. Major browsers such as Chrome have been working toward phasing out third-party cookies for a while. And when it eventually happens, it could have a big impact on how small businesses market themselves online. But don't panic. The shift also opens up new opportunities to build stronger, more trustworthy relationships with your audience using first-party data. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So let's dive in. Paul, let's start with you. What exactly are third-party cookies and why are they going away, or are they?
They're going away, and I'll get to that in a minute, but third-party cookies are, how do I say this without being a geek? They're cookies that are put on a website or dropped in your browser by a website that you're not currently visiting, if that makes sense. So, like, let's say you have a Facebook like button on your website and someone clicks on that. Facebook can drop a third-party cookie in your browser and track what you do across the web. That's really what they're used for tracking across websites, usually for advertising, remarketing, things like that. But I believe Safari and Firefox already block third-party cookies by default. Chrome blocks some. I don't think they block all of them, but they do block some third-party cookies by default. And then there's things like DuckDuckGo that not only block third-party cookies, but anonymize your data. So I think they're going away, whether it's official or not. I don't see how they're not going away.
And Paul, can I just ask a clarifying question? And this is partly for our audience, partly for me. I like these questions, but a cookie, just to be super clear, is a little piece of code that tracks your behavior, right?
No, it's those little round things like chocolate chip cookie.
Well, I love cookie, as you can tell.
Yes, that's exact. It's a little code snippet. And it's, like I said, it's used to track what you're doing on the internet. It is used for retargeting, ad personalization, building audience segments, things like that. So how they're going to have to, we're going to talk about this a little later, but they're going to have to use first party data to do that in the future. And I think, as Jeff mentioned, Chrome first it was going to be the end of 2024. And then they said earlier this year that that's on hold while they focus on the user experience. I guess not being tracked across the web doesn't count as part of the user experience. But it's really driven by privacy concerns, legal pressure like the GDPR, the CCPA, and user demand. That's why people are using things like DuckDuckGo. They're tired of being tracked without their consent. And that leads to, consent-based marketing. I think you're going to see more requirements to opt into certain things. Whereas Safari blocks a lot of things by default, and you have to actually opt in if you want these things. So, yeah, I think they're going away. It's just a matter of Google's the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Sorry, go ahead.
Google's 800-pound gorilla in the room, obviously, and they still allow quite a few third-party cookies, actually. So once Chrome decides to start blocking third-party cookies, I think that's will officially be the end of them.
Yeah, I mean, Google Ads has a vested interest in them, right?
Yeah.
But I think, my take on what Google has said is, it started out very hard line. They're going away. And now it's down to, well, they're not necessarily going away, but we're going to give users the option of whether they want to block them or not. And of course, as soon as most users figure out that they can block them and what it'll do in terms of cutting down on stuff they maybe don't want to see, then they'll start blocking them more. So regardless of whether they stay or go, shifting to a first party strategy is going to make a lot of sense. That's what we're going to talk about.
Google will block third party cookies except the ones that pertain to Google Ads.
Yeah, probably so. All right, ready for the next question? Have we hit the third part, what they are and how they're used topic enough?
Well, the only thing I would add to that is I know there's lots of legislation that's happening and pressure on some of these companies, and we all want privacy, right? But we all want personalized ads to some extent, or not all, but a lot of people do. They appreciate that they don't have to weed through a whole bunch of crappy ads that they're not interested in. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like, people want the convenience of what cookies have been providing up till now, but they also want to make sure that their privacy is secured as best as possible. But I would just say one of the Paul mentioned DuckDuckGo, but like, the amount of people that use that browser is so small. It's minute compared to like the other browsers that do have cookies still involved. So I find it interesting. And I wonder, I haven't investigated it super deeply, but I wonder where most of the pressure is coming from. Maybe you guys know.
I worry about the cookie monster.
I don't blame you. That guy steals your cookies all the time.
What's he going to do?
Didn't he change to healthy eating?
Well, he's going to have to.
I think the legal pressure, Ian, is what's driving a lot of it. GDPR, certainly Europe has taken the lead in a lot of privacy-related things. And then CCPA, the California Privacy Act, I think. And I mean, if you follow, we've talked about privacy before. We've had, I think, prior to me joining the podcast, but didn't you have some of the folks from Termageddon on as guests once? I know a lot of us use that platform for managing the ongoing privacy policies. You look at what they publish in terms of the legislation, all the different states are in. It's just, it's a full-time job keeping up with it all. But I think legal pressures ultimately what's going to drive a lot of things, because if it doesn't come down to the threat of a lawsuit or the benefit of a huge financial gain, which taking away cookies probably financially doesn't benefit very many people, right? It's probably the legal pressure, I think, that's driving this.
And you're saying governmental legal pressures, because it's not. Yes. I don't think it's personal suits against these companies, right. Is it?
Yeah, I don't think Well, interestingly enough, GDPR in Europe started with a personal suit from somebody who wanted Google to remove all their data, and Google said, "Yeah, no thanks," and they sued Google, and then GDPR grew out of that. But I think that, it's compliance with legal pressures as states are getting on board, looking out for their citizens. I think that's where a lot of it's coming from. And of course, you have bad actors out there, and the bad actors kind of spoil it for everybody, right?
Yep.
There are good, valid uses of cookies of all numbers, first, second, third. But the bad actors are the ones that they just hammer on doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, and then everyone gets fed up with it.
Yeah.
So, Ian, how will this change? We talk about, a shift or either reducing, if not eliminating third-party cookies and shifting to first-party. How will that impact small and medium-sized businesses the most?
Yeah, I think the biggest aspect of it to businesses that want to connect with people that need their services, or could potentially want their services because they fit within a profile of a person, right? They might be a certain demographic. They might have a certain income level. Like, there's a whole bunch of factors, right, that make targeting specific people with ads very powerful, but also very, on the most part, meaningful for those people, because you are personalizing the ads as much as possible to the people you're targeting. So I think that's the part that we as marketers and we as business people are the most concerned with, because in all likelihood, and there are some developments in the industry that may help mitigate this a bit, but it will definitely reduce the ability to highly target ads to specific people in a specific way, even retargeting ads, which is super powerful, right? Where you're basically able to say, okay, somebody showed interest, they were on my website, I want our ad now to pop up on other websites. Some of those things are going to be harder to do. I'm pretty convinced in my own mind, and what I see in the industry that, when rules change, people there's a great saying, I don't remember what it is. Some very famous person said it about, whatever, barriers create innovation is basically my paraphrase of it, but you guys are smarter than me, so you probably remember the real one. But yeah, I just think the industry itself, because nobody wants just to be hit with ads that don't mean anything to the people that they're targeting. It'll just cost more for the advertising. Cost per clicks will go up. It's just going to happen. So I think that's probably the biggest area that we want to make sure that we're giving the best value to people that are advertising. And quite frankly, all the ad platforms want that as well. They want people to spend as much money, businesses to spend as much money as they possibly will in order to reach the people they're trying to reach and connect with. But that doesn't mean they want it to become bloated and unreasonable. Just there's other traditional marketing like traditional TV ads that, only a certain strata of businesses could advertise on because it was so expensive. And that's not the intention of, any of these ad companies, because it's a volume play in a lot of ways. I think just the cookie codes snippets added an ability for not just the big players like Google, Meta, TikTok, all of these different platforms to be able to help advertisers reach the people they're trying to reach. But it also helped a lot of smaller players who were trying to disrupt the industry. And I think depending on their capability to be able to now adapt, to this new world of cookieless advertising, we might lose some of the competitiveness in the industry. That's hard to say, but we'll find out as we go down this path. And I think it's, the biggest challenge to small businesses are the ones who have relied on low cost, highly targeted ad campaigns that may, it may become a more costly venture. But the beauty of online ads is that you'll know pretty quickly and you'll be able to either adapt, adjust, or look for some other opportunity. Yeah.
I think I can remember back in the day with Facebook, it was possible to target an audience of one. And then, of course, those abilities to do that started to be removed. You had to have bigger audiences. You had to have more generalized audiences. And you had to play a trick to get that audience of one, don't get me wrong. But yeah, so as things open up, they get harder to do. They get broader. The ability, as you said, low cost and highly targeted is going to wash out. So other things have to come up. Paul, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is going to be retargeting because, like Ian mentioned, that relies on someone comes to your website and, you have data privacy concerns, so you don't know who that someone is, but you put a third-party cookie on their browser, and now you can retarget them as they do things on the web. And I think it's going to be a challenge to do that in any different way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying they won't figure it out, but right now I don't know that there's a way to replace that. And maybe that's why Google keeps kicking it down the road.
Will the phone advertising IDs for mobile advertising be impacted by the shift to cookieless?
You mean like geo-targeting or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about geo-targeting and app data, because that's not really covered under this discussion of cookies. But, your phone has a gajillion apps that you use, and that's tracking stuff, right? So I don't know.
Well, and it has an advertising ID too.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you're in an app, that still tells if you have your GPS settings turned on, it tells, the world, whoever's collecting that data, where you've been. Now, it doesn't attach it to your name, but it knows your phone was there. And so that in the short term, that may be a viable alternative for some retargeting in some different ways.
And Ken, I think that is, I think you're exactly right. I think it is a separate but related issue. We're talking about generally cookies are, in browsers, right? And targeting on phones doesn't necessarily mean in a browser. It could be, notifications can be in the app. So yeah, I think you're right. In the short term, there may be a shift to be able to do more of that. But in the longer term, then people are going to go, hey, we solved the problem with cookies. Now, how do we solve it with phones?
Yeah. One of the things I was going to mention is I had ChatGPT run basically build a chart of where we're at right now, like what the plans are for Cookieless and where we're at right now and the timing of it for all of the different platforms, the major ones, right? Google Ads, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest. And what was so interesting was basically all of them have plans, right? All of them have stated their plans, but pretty much all of them are just transition in progress, right? Or delayed, or, it's so interesting because they all have a reason for showing that they are trying to do this, right? To maybe slow down some of the attacks on them as far as being forced to go cookieless. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that, nobody's really completed it to date.
Yeah, let's move on.
Is there any specific time pressure for them to do so? Because it's not in their best interest from a revenue perspective. So until there's a hard and fast date that's mandated to them, they're going to drag this out for as long as they can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the reason, you think about Meta, you think about Google, you think about Facebook. How do these companies make money? These companies make money on ads, right? They don't make money on you signing up and getting an account because the accounts are free. So you're exactly right. They've got to balance it. They've got to figure out how to not impact their revenue streams with essentially keeping their users happy. Because when the users get unhappy, they jump to another platform.
Right. And do you think so? I've noticed a lot of these businesses have now included an personalize your advertising dashboard, basically, where they make it fairly easy that if you have an advertiser or an advertisement show up, you can now block it pretty easily, and you can create, some personalization related to, what kind of ads you want to see. Like Meta has that. I believe Google has that to some degree. I don't think many people know about it though. Like they don't. It's not really beneficial to the platforms to advertise it, except to the legislators. But yeah, it's something that's available right now on many of the platforms.
Well, and Google and Facebook bribe a lot of politicians, so and then Facebook is apparently cooperating with China.
This is why Paul doesn't show his face.
Did you see it? Nobody's heard about that?
We've heard about it. We just didn't say it.
Well, all the news outlets are saying it, so it's not like it's a secret.
Yeah.
Ian, you brought up an interesting point, though. I mean, it's a balance, and there are some things that I don't mind seeing the ads for. I get a lot of ads, and I'm like, oh, why am I seeing that? Or, the retargeting especially, I think goes on too long. I looked at a power drill on Home Depot's website 3 months ago. I probably bought one by now. I don't need to keep seeing ads. But on the flip side, I learn about a lot of cool tools and products because, I'm on social media all the time because, of course, marketer. And some of the profiles I think they built to me must look totally crazy because, in the morning I can be looking at one thing and in the afternoon I can be looking at the opposite of that one thing. But I do learn about things from seeing ads. So the notion that you brought up of being able to set your ad profiles about, I'm okay with seeing this, but I don't really care about seeing that. I think we're moving toward first party selections and then, opting in to what you want to see, but I think that that could be a good thing overall.
To that point, Jeff, I just bought a course, probably about a month ago. I would have never. It's perfectly aligned with what I needed and wanted, and I didn't even know I wanted it at the time until I saw what the guy was offering. But it was totally in line with who I am and what I wanted. And it's the perfect course. And it was, if I hadn't seen that ad, I probably never would have even known about this particular guy and this author. And I've bought some books now. And like, it's when advertising works well, it's presenting things we actually are interested in or align with our values and that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, what you were just saying, it goes back to you can't search for what you don't know exists.
Yeah.
That's the AI at work targeting you, Ian. It's like it knows more about you than you do, right?
I believe it. Yeah.
I just saw a headline come out today. I haven't digested the article yet, but it was basically about mining. I think it was giving the users the ability to do it, but it was about mining search history. I don't think it was necessarily nefarious, but it was like some increased ability for users in Chrome to go in and mine their search history. So Ken, let's make the shift to talking more about first-party data now. So what exactly is first-party data, and why is it the key to insulating against third-party cookies being downplayed, if not removed?
Yeah, well, hopefully the thunderstorm won't be too much of a distraction. I'm in a makeshift facility today for my answers. So first-party data is really, it's the best data you can have overall. You've got more control over it. It's data that you collect directly from your audience, from getting them to opt in to give you their email or their cell phone number for text messages based on the purchases they've made from you, forms that they fill out, behaviors on your website, things like that. Therefore it's typically more accurate data, and it's also consent driven because they did something to opt in to give you that information. Now, just because they fill out a form on your website doesn't mean that you have the right to send them every possible marketing message you may ever want. A lot of people do treat it that way, but that's definitely not the best practice and not what we would recommend. But, when you focus on content, when you understand who your audience is, what they want, what they're interested in, that's going to be the most powerful and aligned marketing that you can have. What's great about this, and we learned this from COVID over and over and over again, and it's as true today, again, because we're in some economic strife right now. And look, if you own your data, you can use that data to go back out and ask people, because the people who've given you that data probably have a deeper relationship with your business than the third-party data, right? And so you can use this as a way to ask them to help you and your business, give them an incentive, give them a reason why they can buy from you again. It's portable. You can take it from one platform to the next. You own it, and you can use it, most importantly, to get people who already know, like, and trust you to consider buying from you again. It's not subject to the whims of a particular platform or algorithmic changes, which is huge. And you, because people already know that they've given you the information, dramatic effect. They have a higher level of trust when you're communicating with them. So I think it's huge. First party data is really what rules, and you need to do everything you can to build your list. And if you're currently running ads on platforms that thrive off of third-party data, start using tools to get them to move from third-party data to becoming first-party data. That through, and Ian's going to talk about ways that you can do that, I believe, next, right, Ian?
It sounds like the things you talked about, they're not really new, right?
No,
All of a
there are
sudden they're
actually
getting more
marketing
important.
best practices. You know,
Yep.
if you want to, if you look, I don't know about 99% of, yeah, I only know about me and the way I want to run my business, but I like to control the data and the contacts of the people that I have for my own use. And I don't want to rely on the whims of an algorithm, or things like that. I want to be able to have the maximum amount of control to leverage that data in the most effective way possible. And so if you're not building a list, you're really missing massive opportunities. And this is really all about list building. So because that's the data that you own and it is transportable from one platform to the next. If you decide, like think about, a classic thing is people's email addresses change all the time. And so why do they happen? Why do those email addresses change so fast? Internet service providers, maybe they change phone carriers, they change internet providers, they move from one job to the next. And those email addresses get old and out of date very quickly. So it's not just enough to collect and build a list. You have to actively maintain it and use it to get the value out of it. But having said that, in my opinion, it is the best, most valuable marketing asset that any business can have.
And just to extend a little bit, some of the things you talked about, tracking people's behavior on your website, for instance, or the forms they fill out. I mean, we're talking about tying into a marketing automation platform to be able to really do that, right? It's not something that you can just do without some sophistication behind it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can actually, if somebody is engaging with content on your website and they, for example, they've downloaded 3 of your lead magnets, that's an indication that they're pretty serious and interested about looking for a solution. They may be trying to do it themselves. Maybe that's why they're getting your lead magnets to get that information. But they may also be doing it just because it's an indication that there's a strong intent that they need to make a purchase decision and are actively looking for a solution. And when you can control the narrative, when you get people to see the world through your lens, through the way that you solve the problem with your solution set, that's the most powerful way to win business, because people, they've already bought in, they already trust and see the value that you're offering. And I don't want to steal too much of Ian's thunder, but that's why first party data is so important. And you can learn so much if you have your website properly set up and integrated with a CRM to do lead scoring and to, set all kinds of triggers and make decisions and rules based on activities of what people have done, where they've opted into or taken different actions throughout your website.
I had another follow-up on that, but I think it may better go to Ian since I know what he's going to talk about next. Paul, anything you want to add? Are we good to move on to the next question? Drum roll, please. Cue it up for Ian. What are practical ways small and medium-sized businesses can start collecting more first-party data today? Oh, you're muted, Ian.
Ken said it all. I'm just kidding. No, great questions, and they follow each other very well. I think I'll start with where Ken kind of left off, and that was, without a CRM system, that's combined with a marketing automation system, and these are often one tool, right? Like we all use a similar tool.
Should be one.
Yeah, should be. That's a good point. If they're not, it makes life very hard for you as a business. Means you have to send data back and forth, and that's very common in a lot of industries. But I would say that combined with a marketing automation tool that has lead scoring built in, Ken alluded to this, whereby actions and activities of what a person is doing in relation to content that you're presenting to them, whether it's on your website, whether it's something you're emailing out to them. It could be lead gen forms on your website, on social, because that can be integrated. It can be polls that you do, quizzes that you do, surveys that you do, anything to gather intelligence and information about somebody's interests gives you as a business a lot of, I was going to say ammunition, but that makes it sound like it's contentious, like it's a battle. But it gives you things, opportunities, just like if you're talking with someone in person and they express interest in something you're talking about, you're going to want to talk more about that with them, right? Like it's actually a very natural human thing to do. And so really, when you do this well, you're taking advantage of just human interaction at its best, because you're providing information that somebody's interested in already, and you're helping them down that road of gaining more information. Using things like QR codes can be really valuable. If you do any kind of loyalty programs, that's why loyalty programs actually work, is that it's information that the business can use. Standalone loyalty programs, I worked for one for a while. The reason they existed was because they could sell their data to businesses to understand consumers better, right? Like that was, they had created, this currency of points that consumers valued, that helped them in their purchasing decisions, that then the retailers could understand their clients that much better and be able to, incentivize them to buy more, basically, of stuff that they wanted anyways. Leveraging SMS texting, email is huge, especially if you have, an email newsletter when people sign up for it. If you have events, make sure you're capturing people's information, live events, digital events, virtual events. Make sure you're capturing people's information so that you can then use that in a strategic manner. And I alluded to this before, or maybe this was in our discussion ahead of this webinar or this podcast, that Google's putting a lot of effort into combining your first party data with AI to better target ads. And I think maybe we'll be getting into that a little bit later in this discussion. I think it naturally fits into some of the other areas, but you can't do those things unless you have the first party data. So at its very basic, businesses should be capturing people's information, get their email address, their name, their email address, their phone number, and then start to build out your data set, your understanding of what people are interested in relation to your business. Smart businesses have been using this kind of information forever, right? Like, when I worked in the corporate environment, our salespeople would use their CRM system to capture information. If they went out to an actual client's business and the client expressed, just in chatting, they were like, "Oh, you like golf too." They would make a note of that. "Oh, your wife likes, whatever." Make a note of it, because that kind of information is super helpful to you as a business in creating messaging and conversation that resonates with them.
So you talked about some of the things you can do to collect email addresses particularly, but there's other things, right? Texting will get you a phone number.
Yeah.
Sign up to have something sent to you gets you a mail address. But particularly with emails, it's the goal. Let's get them so we can drip on them, but nobody wants to sign up for another newsletter. I got enough newsletters. Why do I need another newsletter? What's the key with really any of these methods? What's the key to getting people to give you their first party information?
I love it, Jeff. You're just throwing me a lob ball. It's fantastic. We're playing softball right now. It's like Ian just hit this ball. Value exchange. Providing value is the key to all of this, right? We're so protective of our time and, our phones and our email inboxes that unless you provide value that's worth somebody giving you information, they're not going to give it. So that's kind of the key. It's a value exchange. You're saying, you can have this what you want, like a free ebook, could be anything, right? Access to a mini course, a video, information that they want. And if you give me that, I just need your email address and maybe your phone number or something like that, right? Like your name, usually it's name and email address to start. And then once you go deeper in the relationship, you might ask for the phone number so you can text them and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what you were looking for, Jeff? I felt you.
That's what I was looking for. I teed that one up for you, huh? Yeah. Is it that obvious?
I appreciate it.
I'm glad you mentioned mini courses because I think those are working really well right now. And also, for those people who know how to leverage AI, I mean, you can actually use and create GPTs as a way, to give people. So like if you're a plumber, you could create a GPT that allows your customer to go in and ask questions about, some plumbing related problem that they might be having at home to help them maybe self-diagnose and answer. And you can get people to opt in to be able to use that type of facility, or it could be other contractors who might be great referral sources for you, but the key is, as Ian said, it's value in advance. The equivalent, StoryBrand talks about if you're going to get an email address from somebody, the going rate is it's got to be worth $25 worth of value. Now that seems kind of low to me, and it depends on the industry. Obviously, it's going to vary widely from one industry to the next, but that's the general rule of thumb. You really have to focus on giving value in advance. And it has to be clear. People have to understand what value they're going to get before they're willing to opt in frequently.
And don't mess it up. Like, don't say you're going to get this value. Don't make it a loss leader, because if you do, they will bail, right? Like you really have to follow through and continue to increasingly add value through the conversation.
Yeah, people will sign up, get the free thing, and then unsubscribe, right?
Yeah.
You also mentioned polls, quizzes, and surveys. And I think along that same vein, people are going to be a lot less likely to fill out a survey or answer poll questions or take a quiz if they never see anything from it. But when you say, hey, in a week, we're going to share the results of all this, and that becomes powerful. It becomes, hey, I get a lot of insights into, a lot of other thought. How are people thinking? Do they think the same way I do? Do they value the same things I do when I get that feedback? Now, if it's like, what's your favorite barnyard animal? Which state represents the place you should retire to? Maybe that's an instant feedback thing. But I think I
think it's a cow.
It's a cow. You're a cow. Is that the?
Maybe they're nice. Big animal? Doughy eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about, quizzes is, you can get that instant feedback back to people, which will get people to take action. And frequently, they will share that with other people if they find joy or humor or value in that, so it could be a personality test. What kind of marketer are you? Or, a variety of different things, but the key is, get them to do something there and then let them see the value. And ideally, if you can get them to help you spread the word, integrating it in with, some kind of a referral program or a sharing program to make it super easy, that helps you accelerate the capturing of first party data from others. So really important. I do want to say one thing too about, all of the quizzes that people fill out on social media. All that is a big way to capture data about you. So that they can turn around and market to you. So,
or scam you,
or
try and get personal information that could be the answers to the security questions, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
where was your honeymoon?
Yeah. So be careful. Be careful with that. Recognize it's not there just for your amusement. Somebody is doing it for specific purposes, many of which can be malicious or deceiving. Not all, but some certainly can be.
Paul, you've been quiet. You want to jump in? Because I'm going to go to you to the next question anyway. So turn your mic on.
It's on.
All right. So what tools, you're our tools guy, what tools should small businesses use to store and organize all this data?
I like this question Because the answers are things we've been telling people for years now. And they just don't do it. But we've been talking about CRM systems. We have one that we use. I think it's better than anything else out there. That's not biased. So I'm not going to plug other CRMs that we don't use. But
it's hard to tell when Paul is sarcastic because we can't see your face, Paul.
Well, I don't want Facebook to put me in their facial recognition.
I get it.
Specifically on CRMs, we did a podcast a few back that was about what does CRM mean to you, right? So,
yeah. And it's
shameless plug for the podcast. Go check that one out if you're still on the fence about CRMs.
Yeah, because CRM, it helps you segment your contacts. I mean, it's among other things, but it helps you segment your contacts, and goes back to what Ken said about list maintenance. Pretty much every CRM, I think, well, if they get a hard bounce, and sometimes it's a setting you have to turn on, sometimes it doesn't. If there's a hard bounce, it will block emails from being sent to them, so you don't get in trouble. And your automations in your CRM just helps free up time. These menial tasks and automations can be as simple or complex as you want them to be, but it just frees say you're paying an office person to do something that can be automated with a CRM. Well, how much time can you free up for that person so they can do something else? And it also goes back to using forms that will integrate with that CRM. Gravity Forms is a popular one for WordPress, but a lot of CRMs, they have a form builder, and you could just take a code snippet and then you don't have to, like Gravity Forms, if you use Gravity Forms, you have to go build a Zap to get that information into your CRM. Whereas if you use the form builder in the CRM, you don't have to do that. It just automatically creates that contact for you. And then Google Analytics 4 to get first-party data from your website. A lot of businesses use a spreadsheet, but a spreadsheet is not a CRM. Neither is a Post-it note. Just thought I'd point that out. But it's keeping things centralized and easy to use. And the CRM that we use, it just has practically everything built in. It has websites and funnels built in right into the CRM. You can keep now if you have a complicated website, you may not want to do that. You still want to use WordPress or something like that, but everything's there and everything works together because it was built from the ground up. It wasn't something slapped on top of something that was already there, and everything just works together. So just having a CRM isn't necessarily enough. You have to have the proper CRM for your business and what you're trying to accomplish.
And it has to be built out to reflect your business process. And
right.
That's what you want to accomplish, part of what you just said, right?
Yeah.
It's not just out of the box.
Yeah, I think there are two other super important tools that have emerged and are emerging very, very fast. One is an AI voice answering system, and the other is an AI-driven bot system that's on your website. And realize, some people are going to be, going to the website and engaging with the chatbot. Other people are going to pick up the phone and call. So you really need to think about having both for your business. And they are fantastic at capturing contact information. And the CRM we all use populates it directly into the CRM from the phone system without any third-party tool or integration required. It's just natively done and very, very powerful. And so those are features you really need to be looking for. AI voice is better than those horrible phone tree systems. Don't let that bias your decision making. Keep in mind, how many contacts do you miss every day when you miss a phone call? And why do you miss phone calls? You're working in your business, you're on somebody's roof, or you're in somebody's mouth if you're a dentist. Maybe your receptionist was out for lunch, you are taking care of somebody styling their hair while they're sitting in the chair. Do you need to make a decision about, am I going to miss a phone call and therefore miss an opportunity to capture first party data from somebody who's expressing interest in my business or am I going to piss off my customer that I'm trying to serve right now, who's already paid me sitting in a chair or paying me to be on their roof? So you need to get over your concerns about AI being good or bad. It needs to be properly trained. Not everybody, there are going to be a lot of bad actors who are going to sell you stuff that, they just throw it out there without any thought or consideration. The key is it's got to be trained, as Jeff, you said, on your business and to work the way your business works and to be in the voice of your business. Absolutely. But that's easily done these days. Mm-hmm. So those are critical components now and are probably the most emergent types of ways to get first party data.
And the AI voice and AI chatbot, again, we keep calling it CRM, but I think what we use so much more, it's built in. If you're using a CRM that doesn't have it built in, now you have to go buy something else.
And spend a lot of time and effort or pay somebody to figure out how to make it all work together.
And pay for all the tools.
And we talk a lot about omni-channel, right? And then you add in, direct messaging from the different social channels, WhatsApp, the right tool is the tool that you use as a team. The wrong tool, no matter what tool it is the one you don't actually use, right? The human behavior aspect is so important to that equation.
So Ken, let's jump back to you. Once you have first party data, how do you use it effectively for marketing?
Yeah. So again, this is all assuming that you're capturing the first party data so that you can use it for these purposes. But these are the purposes of how you can use it. So you can, one of the easiest things to do is to personalize emails. So, include their name when you send them an email. That's pretty easy to do. Even if you're sending 100 or 5,000 emails at a time, you can still personalize it to include their first name for every recipient of that email.
Assuming you have it. So tip number one, get the first name. Yeah. Because otherwise you'll send out an email that says, "Dear first name." Yeah. How many have we all seen of those, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can also segment it based on behavior or interest that they've displayed. So did they opt into a particular solution, thing about a specific solution? Did they request a quote on, a new roof? Does that mean you want to send them an email pushing siding or windows? Maybe not yet. Maybe you want to get them as a roofing client first, right? So you can use it to target their interest, but then you can also know, hey, based on what they did buy, now maybe it's time for me to introduce another set of products that we offer that maybe they didn't realize we offer. We all lose business because clients don't realize that we have solutions or products or services that they didn't buy from us initially when they did make that purchase. So you definitely want to stay top of mind with them and introduce them to other relevant solutions that they may be interested in. If you have e-commerce capabilities built onto your website, you can tell if they abandon a cart, so you can send them reminder emails. It's like, oh, hey, look, it looks like you forgot something. We've all gotten those, right? Those can be very effective. If you know their birthday, if you've captured that data, you can send them, birthday messages. You can send them special offers on their birthday. One of the things I love is a chiropractor or a dentist can automate a series of emails to just check in with people, the afternoon of their service, if they got service in the morning, or procedure done in the morning, or that next day, just to check in with them and see how they're doing. You can automate that process, or you can set a reminder to trigger you to pick up the phone and call them, either one or both. You can keep track of, as I said, what they've purchased, so that you can do the cross-sell or upsell opportunity. If somebody made a purchase and they bought, level 2 of a 3-level solution or product or service you offer, you can send them a message to upgrade that service, maybe a one-time offer to make that upgrade. That's an upsell. There are also downsells. So if people are deciding that they want to cancel, you could offer them a lower price solution. It's like, wait, you don't need 5 blog posts a month. Well, how about keeping 2, or whatever it might be, or it's really common with with SaaS solutions, software as a service solutions, or tools that you buy. You can certainly use pixel technology to retarget people who have visited your website. It's still allowed within your own website with the changing rules that are taking place. And you can also take this data, this first-party data, and on certain platforms like Meta and Google, you can build lookalike audiences that look similar to the data they have based on the first-party data that you provide to them. It could be uploading your email list, for example, to them. So that's something that may go away as we move forward over time. But those are typically the things that you can do with first-party data. And again,
amplify that last one a little bit. Amplify that last one a little bit, the lookalike, because I think it is so powerful. The idea is, if you've got a bunch of contact information, and the more the better, names, phone numbers, addresses, what these tools will do is go out and say, look, I've got 1,000 people that are my ideal clients. They do business with me. They like what I do. We're a good fit. Figure out what the characteristics of them are. And this is what AI excels at, right? And then go find me 10,000 more just like them. So when you do that and you're advertising to that audience, they're already, theoretically speaking, at least more likely to buy from you. So yeah, incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Good case for first party data. So you can expand using really no party data, using the tools to go out and get you more people that will become first party data.
Yeah. Yeah. The last thing I want to say is, just the power of marketing automation to follow up and nurture people and continue to guide them through their journey, to ask them to become a referral champion for you, give them an incentive to do so, write a review if they haven't already written a review, come back and make a purchase, rebuy something that might be something that's a commodity that they go through on a frequent basis. All of that can and should be automated. And that all based on the first party data that you're capturing. So every business is different, in terms of what first party data it needs to capture from a business. If you're e-commerce driven, obviously you need to know a lot more about the products that people are buying and the breadth of products and the frequency of how quickly people typically run through dish soap or whatever, if that's what you're selling. But in many cases, birthday specials for a roofer to send a birthday message out to their customer. Maybe it's a message, not an offer, because how many times do people need to come back and have a roofer work on, unless you're doing like gutter repair or maintenance or things like that. So you just be respectful of it. But wow, when you have this first party data, you can use that data to help you continue to get more data, more first-party data from that person by giving them a reason to do so. And if they realize, if they give you their birthday, that you're going to give them some goodie, when it comes around to their birthday month, first of all, you're going to get a repeat purchase for very little investment. Mm-hmm. Second of all, you're staying top of mind. And third of all, you're making your customer feel pretty darn good about being your customer.
But moving on in the interest of time, Ian, we've talked, made the case for first party data and why it's a great thing to collect it and how you can do it and where you should put it. Some people may still be kind of wrestling with that a little bit. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that small, medium businesses make when transitioning away from third party data, third party cookies?
I feel it's a little like, I like word pictures, and I feel it's a little like, because everybody, all the platforms have stated that you will have to move away from it, right? We're the cookieless society is happening, not the yummy cookies, but the digital code cookies. It's going to happen, like, unless some weird thing, were to take place, but it's not like that. So if you, as a word picture, I feel like it's the slowest natural disaster movie I've ever seen, because everybody knows the tsunami is coming. And a lot of businesses are either just ignoring it, because maybe they don't understand it. They're waiting. Maybe they're too busy, but they're not preparing. And so you really do need to take steps now, because getting first party data is a long game. Like, you're not going to magically get it. Say Google was announced, we're gonna turn off cookies, next month. A lot of businesses are going to be scrambling because they didn't pay attention to the signs. And so I think that's the biggest mistake, is people not paying attention to the signs that, all the businesses, all the platforms have come out and stated it. You guys talked about the legislation and all the legal battles and all of that kind of stuff. So we see the signs. Don't be apathetic. Don't think it's not going to affect you. Even if you're not an advertiser today, and you're actively building your business, you want it to grow, you have aspirations of growth for your business, and you know that, hey, I haven't been investing in online advertising much yet, but it's going to happen, then, like, don't hurt your future business. Start working on this now.
At some point, you are going to have to toss your cookies.
You're going to... I think, in a very tangible way, you take that and you say, okay, are you building your email list right now? So that's kind of the first step. We've already talked about that, but I would say a lot of businesses fail to do that. They might be letting their own personal biases, because I see this all the time in businesses and prospects we work with and talk with, that people have a lot of personal biases against email marketing. And so, why am I going to go to the trouble of capturing that information if I'm never going to use it because I hate emails landing in my inbox? Well, we've done a great episode talking about the value of email marketing and how it's got one of the highest return on investments if people opt in, right? And that's what we're talking about, is opted in individuals that know, like, and trust you. So don't let your own personal biases keep you from that high ROI activity. But the first step is you can't email anybody if you don't have an email list. So you need to do that. Over reliance on Meta and Google without owning your own data. We've been talking about this for years, in that there's a lot of lazy businesses out there. There's a lot of lazy marketers out there that rely on, well, that data exists on Facebook, or, that we might get people to our website, but we're not capturing their information. If they want to reach out to us, they'll reach out to us. You can't rely on that. Like, everything should point to your website, and everything should point to a capture method. It might not be your primary call to action, which might be a phone call or a form fill. It might be lesser stuff. And right now, while you have the ability to retarget, you should be retargeting people, right? To capture their information and up the game, show value. Another mistake people make is not being clear about asking for consent or violating privacy, right? We talked about bad actors. And then lastly, not actually using your data, not analyzing it, not segmenting it. And what I mean by that is, you guys talked about personalization earlier on. You can't personalize messaging if you don't segment your data and understand who these people are and what attributes, particular personalized attributes they have. You need to understand your list. You need to align your marketing and your sales efforts to those segmentation and personalization attributes, so that you can create messaging that resonates with them, so that you're a welcome guest, not an uninvited pest, right?
Yeah, and Ian, you said about over relying on Meta and Google, and that's a good point, regardless of third or first party data, whatever, because remember when Google Business Profile had the functionality that you could build a simple basic website? And a lot of businesses did that. And then Google comes along and says, yeah, we're going to remove that functionality. You're going to have to go figure out what you're going to do now. And some businesses, all they have is a Facebook page. Well, what if you do something like color your hair the wrong color and piss off Facebook and they cancel your account or shut down your page? And that's all you were using was your Facebook page. Businesses do that. And you don't own those platforms. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want.
Don't build your house on rented land.
There we go.
Just real quick, Paul, how can businesses stay compliant with privacy regulations? Ian just mentioned that. So what kind of things should businesses do to stay compliant with privacy while they're
data? You have to have a privacy page. Okay. I mean, it's really not an option anymore. At the very least, you have to have a privacy page. You should probably have a disclaimer in terms of service as well. But the privacy policy is a part that's really important. Make sure you're using opt-ins. And if someone unsubscribes from your email, unsubscribe them. Okay. You can automate that in your CRM.
Yeah.
And buying lists and scraping data, it's not the best thing. If that's where you have to start, there's things you shouldn't do. I won't go into. Use a throwaway domain. But one thing we offer to our clients, and I don't think this is really an option either, is we use a subscription service that you go in and you build your privacy policy in terms of service, whatever, and then you get a code snippet and you put it on the website. And what you're paying for with that subscription service is because they ask you what state you're in, what state you do businesses in, and it creates the privacy policy. And then they dynamically update that. If the privacy laws change in your state, your privacy policy on your website is automatically updated. Because if you have a static privacy policy, you're going to have to either yourself or have an attorney, pay an attorney to keep up with when these changes are made, because it's going to have to be made manually.
Yeah, that's a good point. This stuff is so dynamic and changing. And then the opt-in, I'm working on a new client right now that we're adding opt-in consent checkboxes on the forms. And what's compelling that is we want to do text message marketing, and you've got to
that's kind of a requirement
to even set up text message marketing. You have to prove that you've got those on your form. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot to stay compliant and keep up with. And like you said, knowing what to do and how to do it's part of it, and then keeping up with the changes, having a tool that automates it's. I'm going to wrap it up pretty quick because we are running short on time. Anything anyone wants to jump in on, anything that we missed or left unsaid that before we?
The only thing I'd really say is it's with the privacy stuff. I mean, there is a huge push for that. There is legislation coming out that you can be sued. And what you were saying about the text message marketing, that's something called A2P registration. And if you don't have a link to your privacy policy on your form, you will not get approved.
And even on you got to give examples of your opt-ins and the language you're using and how people can get out if they want to get out. Yeah, absolutely. Ian, Ken, anything you want to add on any of the stuff we talked about today?
I'll just say first-party data is your best friend for marketing. And then its next best friend is using it to go back out to your current and past customers, to ask them to buy from you again, to refer you, or to review you. And you can only do that when you have first-party data effectively. When we're in a down economy or a stressed economy and nobody knows where we're going right now, it's a little bit of a time of chaos in terms of what's going to be happening from an economy perspective. First-party data is potentially your most valuable asset to help you generate revenue, and it's also the most cost-effective way, typically, to generate the most revenue and the fastest way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the last thing I would say is just, to simplify it for everybody, back in the day, way back in the day, you had a Rolodex, then you had a contact file of some kind and maybe a CRM system. There used to be an old CRM system called Goldmine, and it was a great name because, if you're, as most businesses know, your contact list is a gold mine. And if you're not capturing that information and storing it and using it, then you're going to lose some of that gold. So there you go.
What do you mean used to have a Rolodex?
No, I mean, I thought you meant gold mine. Do you still have a Rolodex, Paul?
No, I do not. I never had.
They work.
It needs to Rolex.
It works pretty good.
In a gold mine back in the day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think this is a great place to wrap up then. Ian, would you, as is our tradition, take us out?
Sure. Folks, if you found this episode of this podcast valuable, don't forget to hit, smash, punch, crush that subscribe button. Share it with your friends, family, pets, frogs, anything. Just share it. It benefits us, which helps benefit you because we do better podcasts. So until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, explore new ways to connect with your customers and capture that list and keep that list and that gold mine to grow your business. Until next time, keep calm, folks, and mark it on.